Hello and welcome to the Daily Records Hotline Live, brought to you by NordVPN. My name's Angus Hyde, and today I'm joined by the one and only Scott McDermott. Has it been sunny there? You've got your bonnet on, mate.
It was sunny this morning, when I was getting the kids for school and that. You can see through the window, I've still got a bit of sunshine in Canvas Lang, so need to make the most of it, Angus. They'll not be here for long, that's for sure.
Oh, tell me about it. I mean, last week I was talking about long johns with the boys at Celtic Park, and wow, we're getting a wee bit of the summer in, but one thing, we are getting the end of summer signals, potentially the end of the European road for a few teams. Obviously, the Rangers taking up Jablonec, Celtic travelling to Austria, we've got Motherwell in Germany, and of course, We've also got Hearts in Austria as well, and Hibs at home. So we're busy across the board. But mate, Celtic take a very, very, very impressive 3-0 win over to Austria. We heard from Ryan McDonald and Gannon on our Record Celtic podcast, and they gave us the latest from Austria.
We're in lovely Linz. And it's baking here, by the way. It's absolutely roasting.
And these two dumplings forgot to put on the suntan lotion.
My Tahitian sunset colouring is getting fried here. This is going to be dangerous. But listen, we're here obviously ahead of tomorrow night's massive Champions League playoff return leg. Celtic are 3-0 up from the first leg, so the game's pretty much done, isn't it, Ryan? It's just going to turn up and get the job done up the road.
Yeah, this is Celtic we're talking about. I don't think it'll be quite straightforward, as much as all the match reports would love that to be the case. But
no, unfortunately, I think a lot of Celtic fans have got PTSD from some of these playoffs, and I think even the ones that have been successful, I think have left fans kind of haunted. And I think back to going to Beersheba. Astana. Those two are, oh my word. I think Brendan Rodgers after it said it's like going to a tumble dryer. So Martin O'Neill should be prepared for another head spinning night tomorrow night. Listen, let's get into it. I mean, first of all, couldn't have been much better, could it? Really? I mean, it was a strange game, wasn't it? Though, was there enough in that game to suggest that Celtic should be confident, or did you see a lot in there that perhaps worries you as well? That the team's going into this game tomorrow night.
Yeah, I mean, I think the two early warning shots. LASK scored twice, didn't they?
Aye.
Celtic let out of jail by the offside flagging up. So I think clearly they pose a threat. That was them playing away from home. At home, when they've got 20,000 fans behind them, they've got nothing to lose. They've never actually qualified for the Champions League before either, so the pressure's off. I think they'll just be going for it, especially in the opening 10 to 20 minutes. So I think Celtic will just have to weather the storm over here.
Do you rate them as a team? What did you make of them?
I thought
they were actually quite decent. I thought they looked all right. I thought they looked quite good.
In midfield as well, I thought they were pretty decent as well. There's a couple of really decent playmakers in there. It sliced open Celtic quite a few times as well. Obviously, they've got two absolute specimens up front. So, look, I don't think this is... You'd like to think that Celtic are pretty much there, and of course they've got one foot in the Champions League, but I think for me it's all dependent on how disciplined they are in the first 10 to 20 minutes.
It's because a cliche, isn't it? The first 20 minutes.
But seriously, because if they concede early, then, the support will be right behind LASK. We've seen in the past how many times that Celtic have struggled away from home as well. So I think if Celtic can get the first goal, I think that would be absolutely crucial. I think that would just flatten the whole mood and the home fans, probably the LASK as well. And that might just be enough just to settle the nerves and pretty much secure the placement into the next round. But it's going to be still a really tough task for Celtic. I think.
This team, I watched a bit of them before last week. They do start pretty intense as well. They do come out the blocks quite quickly in most games. It happened at Parkhead. They came out the first 5 minutes, they were all over Celtic. I mean, you had the ball in the net. They're through and goal straight away after that as well. So the warning signs were there. I thought Celtic coped with it pretty well after that. Although weirdly, it was a strange kind of game. It's only 1-3-0, but I don't know if you're a big XG man, but I think LASK came out on top in terms of expected goals. I'm not particularly sure how that works right enough. But and Celtic scored 3 worldies. So it was a kind of strange game.
I think the difference, obviously,
the threat is there. I think they're a threat. This team.
I think you'd be able to bank on Celtic scoring over there with Benjamin Negrin on fire, Camilo Duran, and obviously Casper Hu up front as well. So I think you're going to bank on Celtic scoring. So if they can get a goal, that would require LASK to score 4 to equal.
That's the thing. Did Celtic go out and play and look for the goal first, or do they go and play cautious? How did they approach it? That's the big question, because It's a tricky one, isn't it?
What can give Celtic confidence is the performances in Europe away from home under Martin Neil last season.
Aye.
You look at Stuttgart 1-0,
Yeah.
albeit Stuttgart pretty much killed the tie in the home leg.
Yeah.
It's Celtic Park, it was 4-1. But then you've got Feyenoord 3-1 away from home.
Yeah.
We watched even under Brendan Rodgers in Belgrade. Bologna.
10 men.
So Celtic's record away from home last season actually wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
It showed some maturity compared to previous years where it's been pretty much a write-off.
Yeah.
So that should give Celtic confidence. It shows that they've got to know how to do that. As I say, they've got Champions League proven signings in, like Casper who's delivered at this stage before, Camilo Duran, who's performed at this stage before. So, as I say, I think it's just about, I really do think the opening periods are going to be crucial because Celtic concede twice like they did in last week, but that offside flag doesn't go up, then it's really going to be, it'll be a really jittery night. But
it's that Timo Dyer again. It's I actually think, I don't think Celtic might not have much say in how the game state plays out, because I think they will come out and attack Celtic, and if they can hold firm, I think you're right. I think Celtic have got a chance to hit in the break. You saw it. I actually saw it at Tannadice in the league game the other week when United had Celtic pinned back for a long period of the second half, and Celtic just picked them off in the break. You look at the third goal the other night, came from the 6-yard box under pressure in their own 6-yard box, end up at the park and score a goal. So I think Celtic can take a bit of heart that the fact they've got pace to hit in the break. They've got quality. I mean, if they get the ball up to, if you've got Casper Ho as well, or who was brilliant. I thought he was brilliant last week. I know people were saying he was quiet. I thought it was
first
brilliant.
20 minutes, ball wasn't quite falling from it, it was bouncing off him, but I think the key difference is Celtic got a focal point up front now. They've got a real presence.
Just being there, I think. Because I mean, like
that
even
third goal, that would never have happened.
well, all the goals, because I mean, Kieran Tierney for both goals, all he knows is he's got to get the ball in that box, and whether he's attacking the ball or not, he's occupying defenders, and they're having to scramble it clear. The ball breaks out of the box, so these midfield players can gamble on the edge of the box because they know he's in there causing havoc, either getting a chance or getting a break. And then the third goal that you say, that I mean, that I must admit, at that point in time, he's got three options: pull it in, win a free kick, or knock it on. He knocked it on. I think Martin would want him to pull it in and get a free kick at that point, but he did a great bit of skill, and they're up the park and scored a goal. So
I think
he's been brilliant at that.
I think that can be overlooked sometimes, just how good he is at the first one-touch passes, the first time. But he plays it into feet so well, and that just gets Celtic further up the park quicker.
I was surprised, but because I think everyone when he came, everyone was saying he's a penalty box striker. That's it. He doesn't do his good outside the box. I think he's been really good outside the box. Yeah, I mean, I think that's maybe something that Martin said, listen, forget. I mean, you played that way at Bodo, but we need you to do this. And he's, by the way, he's excelled at it. And I think even without scoring, I mean, he didn't score last week, but without scoring, I thought he was a really important part of that cog in the machine, so it was good. I
spoke to Vidar Wiese before he joined, and he's a Norwegian TV pundit over there just now, and he's watched a lot of Casper who playing for Bodo, and he kind of said the opposite. He said, look, I asked him whether he's a penalty box striker, is that true? He said no. The amount of work that he does off the ball is incredible. He says that he's a leader on the pitch as well. I think he wore the captain's armband quite a few times for Bodo last year as well. So I think he's just a kind of all-rounder good player. He's got so many attributes that Celtic have been lacking for so many years. And as I say, I think he's just totally galvanised the team. Benjamin Negan, the link-up play with him, I don't think it's any coincidence that Benjamin Negan's now playing the best football probably of his career, not only Celtic career, but his career. I mean, his numbers are off the scales because he's got a recognised striker like Casper Ho up front. And the combination play with, it's the early signs are extremely promising, but the combination between the two of them in particular is really exciting for Celtic going forward. And that's why I think Celtic will go through, because I think they've got that. I do think they'll concede. I think it could be a nervy night, but I think they've got a goal in them, at least one goal, and that'll be enough.
Did you see Big Casper before the game kicked off?
It
was always good to see. I think the lineups before the game, and the atmosphere. You see some of the reactions, and often the way the team, you all can see how they're doing. Some of them lap it up, some of them look a bit nervous. But on the line, you looked at Casper, he's a big cheesy grin in his face. He fancied it. He's like, this is why I'm here.
But even the team picture, Mike, did you see it? The four new boys that were, including Sinisalo and that, because it was his debut. Yeah. They were all chuffed, and then you've got the veterans like Kieran Tierney and Cam McGregor. They've got the game
Steely face. I just thought it was funny because the big Casper's got a big cheesy grin. I think this is the business. He just looked like a guy. This is why I'm here. This is what I signed up for. This is the brochure. I need to get them the next step into the Champions League. So I thought he was terrific.
But listen, that's a massive thing as well, because you need to have personality to play for Celtic in the Champions League. So well doing it domestically. You need to have a guy that's going to prosper and properly thrive in that environment. Yeah. And like you say, before the game, you could tell how absolutely buzzing he was to be there. So I think that's important, and I think that, as I said, that's why I mentioned the team picture as well. They're all, you could just tell they're properly up for it and really relishing the challenge. And I think that's what Celtic have really need. And I thought 3-0. Do you think it was a fair scoreline last week?
No.
I
If I walked away from that game as a 3-2 or 4-2, I probably thought, yeah, that's maybe. I thought in the balance of play. But listen, how many times have Celtic been the end of that kind of result? When they walk away and get beat 2-3 in Europe and they go, I thought they were in the game. Mm-hmm. So it's about time Celtic dished out one rather than the end of it. Yeah. I think I've also got to admit, I thought LASK were good. The big striker, the big American boy up front was a handful. But if he could finish, he'd be a £100 million player. Mm-hmm. I mean, he looked like Lukaku in the first 5 minutes. Mm-hmm. But after that, you think, oh, that's why he's not worth £100 million, because he's finishing. He ran through and goal, shanked it wide, and he was offside for one. He probably should have been on line, if he could see the line. So that's why, but he's a handful. But I thought they were still walking away thinking, how did we end up getting scudded 3 here?
That's why I worry about Celtic, especially tomorrow night, is, yeah, I get he might not have the quality, like you say, but he is a proper handful, he is a specimen. Yeah. And I think Celtic, especially that backline at times, maybe I'm a bit harsh and Trusty, who we'll talk about shortly, but in Cameron Carter-Vickers, you could tell that Carter-Vickers was rattled in the first 10 minutes. He gradually, I think he gave him a couple of yards, and that allowed him to basically read his game. But I think that Celtic struggle to cope with that physicality at times, especially when you come up at European level. So that is something that they really need to be cautious about. But
I thought Carter-Vickers, like say, the first 10 minutes, I thought he looked like a man who was
a man's head after.
I thought after that I thought the way he read the game was outstanding.
Exactly.
It was like Paul McGrath.
Yeah, he was amazing.
Reading the danger before it got to him, and I thought he just sat a wee bit deeper. I thought he was excellent.
Even early, he was so dominant in there.
I thought he was brilliant. I thought he really was good. But like, listen, defense. We're talking about the threat. We know Celtic got a threat now going forward, which they didn't have last season. So they are capable of producing goals and moments of magic. But like you say, I think this is going to be about defending. And the concern is obviously that this morning the news coming from back in Scotland that Austin Trusty didn't train. They're training it back at Parkhead this morning before flying out here. So the word is that he didn't train this morning. I think it's vital he's fit. I think this is a game for Austin Trusty. I think these are the matches where he actually excels. I think the tougher the game, he's an Alamo defender. I think you get him in Scotland sometimes when it's a bit stop-start.
What is it Brendan Rodgers said, weak as what?
Well, his mind can wander a bit, his concentration can go a wee bit and get caught. Whereas when you're up against it, see the big games when you're up against it, I think back to Atalanta, other European games. Bologna, outstanding. I just think, and these are the games that he is, when he's under siege and he's concentrating, I think he's good. I think he likes that. He likes the balls in the box, he can deal with it. Excuse the building much across the back here. But I think he would be vital. But if he isn't involved, that creates an issue, doesn't it? Because it shuffles things around and it exposes some of the vulnerabilities, I think, in this Celtic team, the squad.
I think, to be honest, between Trusty and Scales, I think it's a flip of the coin. I think they're pretty much kind of the same level of defender. But I get your point about Trusty, how he does properly rise to the occasion in Europe. But for me, if I'm swapping Trusty for Scales, I don't think it really upsets the cut too much. No. But what I would say is, and you're correct to point that out, if Kieran Tierney, who inevitably probably will go off at some point, maybe the 75th minute or whatever, that means that creates a gap there, where you'll probably have to shift Scales out left, which clearly isn't his natural position, and then probably have to throw young Dane Murray in. And depending on the scoreline, that could clearly be a risk.
This is what I mean by I think it maybe highlights some of the weaknesses in the squad. I think are still there.
That was Mick and Ryan earlier on in Austria, and what we can bring you, obviously they were talking about speculation whether Trusty will be in or out for Celtic's game. Martin O'Neill has confirmed that he will be in the squad. However, he has also confirmed that Alistair Johnston is set for 2 months out. So a win and a loss there for Celtic on the injury front. Scott, the LASK manager says he believes in miracles. How do you think this one's going to go for the green side of Celtic of Glasgow?
I fancy Celtic to get through, Angus. They've obviously got a healthy lead. I mean, the boys talked about it in some kind of depth there. I mean, the last manager has to believe that they can turn it round, and they've got nothing to lose. They will go for the jugular early on in the game tomorrow night. So they need to try and get an early goal. Ryan's right. I mean, that'll be the one problem for Celtic. If they conceded early, and the home crowd get up for it and they get a wee taste for it, and LASK get a bit of belief, then it could turn into a tough night. But I just can't get away from the fact that I think Celtic will score over there. I think Celtic showed at home attacking prowess that they've got, even on the break, with guys like Duran and Nygren and people like that. I think Celtic will score. I mean, LASK, as I say, have to go for it. It was a bit like in a basketball game. It was almost too open last week at Parkhead, and in an ideal world, Celtic would want to avoid that. But with LASK having to go for it, and Celtic obviously just desperate to get one more goal that will probably kill the tie, I could probably see it being a kind of similar game. Look, Celtic were too open at times. The midfield was emptied too much at times. LASK got at them too easily. I think Mick's right. LASK will feel aggrieved that they didn't score 1 or 2 goals on the night. But as the boys said there, I just think Celtic's firepower now, the threat that they've got in the wide areas and up front, and even for Nygren, who's started the season brilliantly. I'll be amazed if Celtic don't score over there. And I think 1 goal for Celtic basically kills the tie off. And if they could get that first goal, then, as I say, it could be a comfortable night for them. But as I say, ultimately, I would fully expect Celtic to get through.
Yeah, I agree. I think, if they can get that early goal, that's the killer touch. And they've got a couple of killers they've signed up front. They're scoring goals, so cannot rule them out. Moving across, obviously later in the week, Rangers are travelling over to Czech Republic. I hear you're going to be enjoying a wee bit of time in the Czech Republic yourself, mate.
I am indeed, yep. Leaving tomorrow, looking forward to it.
Of course, and they have Jablonec awaiting them in the Czech Republic. It was a win, but it wasn't what Rangers fans expected from this Rangers side. Just walk us through that match, just quickly.
No, it wasn't convincing, Angus, at all. Look, the positives were the victory, the clean sheet, Ryan Nadiri getting another goal, albeit another tap-in. I think one big bright spot, I was speaking about it just before we came on air, I think that of all the summer signings, the guy that's really impressed has been Olwethu Makanya at the back. He's barely put a foot wrong. He's been really good, really impressive, quietly impressive at the back for them. So those are the positives. The negatives, I mean, the first half was really poor, I thought, in terms of the tempo that Rangers played at, the intensity they had. There was a real lack of kind of hunger and appetite, which was surprising because they'd come off the back of a big 5-1 win a few days before against St Mirren, and you expected Rangers to fly out the traps in the first leg. But Derek McKinnon said it himself, he was surprised at that, he was disappointed at the kind of lack of tempo, lack of aggression, lack of appetite for the game really to go and win it in the first leg. Second half was a lot better. They obviously got a kick up the backside for the manager at half time. They had more control second half. They looked as if they were maybe going to get a second goal before obviously Cammy Devlin gets sent off 5 minutes after coming on. So look, it wasn't convincing. They'd have wanted to win that by 2 or 3 goals to make it a bit more comfortable in the Czech Republic on Thursday night. But they've still got that lead. The Rangers will believe if they go over there and score, then they would like to think that would put the tie to bed as well. But it's going to be tricky. I expect I didn't think Jablonec were great at Ibrox, but I expect them to be a lot better at home. They've started the domestic season pretty well. I got the impression for their manager after the game, he was pretty happy to get out of Glasgow with a 1-0 defeat. So they'll fancy their chances of overturning it, and that's the challenge for Rangers. Can they go there? I mean, they went to Bielefeld in the Europa League, and I didn't think they handled the occasion very well. The crowd was right on them. They didn't play well. If they allow that to happen again, then they could be in trouble. But my instinct tells me, I think again Rangers will get a goal over there and manage to get through.
One of the things that a load of folk have been, obviously a lot of Rangers fans have been talking about, was the mentality part. Did the Rangers have that mentality still to go over to Czech Republic and just get the job done?
Well, that's a big question mark, Angus. I mean, I think when me and Andy were in Bielefeld, I think we wrote I'm pretty sure that was their 8th away defeat in Europe in a row. I mean, I think the last away game they won in Europe was Fenerbahce when Barry Ferguson was in interim charge, and that was a brilliant performance. You think of how Rangers played that night. If they could have replicated that in later games, I'm sure they'd get better results, but they've not reached those levels again. In fact, they've not been anywhere near that level, for being honest, in that space of time. So they've found it difficult getting away from home. As I say, I think this will be tricky as well. And you're right, it comes down to how players deal with that mentally. Can they cope with that bit of pressure to actually still go and perform at a really good level? They didn't do that in Bielefeld at all against Jagiellonia, but they'll need to do it on Thursday night. They'll need to be a lot better. I mean, if Rangers play like they did in the first leg on Thursday, then I think they're going to toil. But you would like to think that Derek McInnes will have them well prepared for what they're about to get into, and capable of putting on a far better performance than they did in the first leg.
Of course, yeah, and looking at the game, looking at the first leg, few wee moments to touch on. You mentioned Devlin. I think he was lucky that boy didn't have his foot planted. Well challenge. Just give me your thoughts on that. And obviously he misses out going into this game.
Yeah, it was a strange one. I mean, at the game, obviously, we'd only seen it once initially, and certainly in the press box, couldn't really understand what the red card was for. If anything, a bit like Derek McInnes, I think we thought Rangers were maybe going to get a penalty for a foul that was maybe just inside the box. Obviously, when you see it again, there's no getting away from it, and it's a stupid challenge that Cammy Devlin makes. I know what he's trying to do. Derek McInnes described it after the game, and he was right. Devlin tries to get his leg in front of the guy, and he's basically looking to try and get a foul, looking to try and get a penalty inside the box. But in doing so and stretching his leg to try and get in front of the guy, as you say, just plants it on the boy's shin. So it's high and it's dangerous. No, it's not a great deal of intensity about it. But as soon as a European referee looks at that again, especially when they put up the stills, then there was only going to be one outcome. And he'd only been on the pitch 5 minutes, so it was obviously a blow for Devlin, albeit, as I say, it was a stupid tackle to make. But it was a blow for Rangers as well, as I say, because they had a wee bit of momentum at that stage in the game. Yeah. Looked as if they'd go and get a second, and almost immediately you could see Derek McInnes thinking, I need to tinker with this just to make sure we go over the line here and keep a clean sheet and keep a victory, because losing a goal would have been a killer for them in the last 15-20 minutes. So it made it difficult for Rangers to then go and try and get the second. And you're right, Devlin obviously missed the second leg. No, I don't think he would have started the game, but no, and I think Cammy Devlin was signed by Rangers in the summer, to playing games like this, tricky away games, difficult venues where it can get a bit scrappy and you maybe need an extra man in midfield. So him missing on Thursday night certainly doesn't help Derek McInnes' cause.
Yeah, and talking about another miss, one of our commenters mentioned that Gassama's miss could have been 2-0. That was so close, and I just went flying over. Looking at that, what players kind of passed the mark for you, and what ones have let you down? Because Andy and I were talking about how Manny Fernandez, that was his game to kind of say, this is my spot.
Yeah.
Aye.
In terms of the miss, I mean, that almost kind of summed up Gassama, really. I mean, one minute he's brilliant, the next minute he's terrible. I mean, that's the kind of dilemma with Gassama. He's a bit of an enigma. He looks as if he's got all the ability in the world, natural ability in the world, but he doesn't always put it all together. I think McInnes sees a player in there, and that's why he's giving him a chance, whereas other players haven't had a chance. I think he sees something in Gassama that he can hopefully nurture and develop. But as I say, even at the start of this season, he's produced a couple of brilliant moments. You think of the shot he had against the underside of the bar. And to be fair to him, he does always try and go at his man, but it doesn't always get past him. I think the big criticism is he doesn't get back quick enough to help out his fullback, which can be costly as well. So, as I say, he's a bit of an enigma, Gassama. That miss kind of summed it up. And you're right, it was a big moment, because 2-0 just put a different kind of reflection on the game. So you would hope that Rangers don't kind of pay the price for that. In terms of the others, I mean, look, Fernandez, I think it started the season really poorly, Angus. No, this boy was Rangers Player of the Year last season. A lot of people forget that. Fans voted him Player of the Year. Actually started the season, couldn't get in the team, struggling to get in the squad. And he ends up being Player of the Year because Danny Rowe brought him in and he excelled for part of the season. And at one point, because of the threat he was in the opposition box and in terms of how well he was defending at the other end, he looked like a guy that Rangers are going to make a lot of money on, make a big profit. As I say, he gets the Player of the Year. He then gets linked to a few big moves in the summer. Talk of Bundesliga clubs interested. I know that's kind of resurfaced again this week, rightly or wrongly. But certainly the form he's in at the moment, I don't think he'll be ready to make that move. I don't think clubs would pay the kind of money for him. It's just to do with focus and concentration, Angus. Those are his biggest flaws. He's too casual at times. He's too lackadaisical. I said on here the other week in the St Mirren game, I think Rangers went 2-0 up with Dragojevic's goal, and it almost immediately for kick-off, he dilly-dallied on a through ball. He got it stolen off him. He had to make a kind of last-ditch tackle, give away a corner. And the Ibrox crowd went from being up and singing and positive to immediately being on Fernandez's back. And his game awareness has got to be a lot better than that. Game intelligence has got to be a lot better than that. So I think he struggled at the start of the season. I think if Ben Godfrey is back fit again for Thursday night, he could well come in for Fernandez at centre-back alongside McCann. Because Derek McInnes will obviously, he's got to get through this tie, but he'll also be thinking about a really tough game on Sunday away to Aberdeen in the Premiership, another one that Rangers have got to try and win, obviously. So I think Fernandez's place is under threat. And as I say, I know there's been a wee bit of talk about clubs looking at him again before the window closes. I'd be amazed if he gets that big move before this January window's up. I mean, if he rediscovers his form, gets back to somewhere close to what he was in the middle part of last season, then maybe you could see that happening. But he's got to improve his focus, his concentration levels during the game. As I said earlier, you look at McCann. The reason why McCann has been really impressive is because he's done the basics right. He defends first. His positional play is really good. He makes good decisions in terms of when to pass it out, when to go long. McCann is, as I say, he's barely put a foot wrong, whereas Fernandez, there's real scrutiny on him now, I think, for the Rangers support. And as I say, if Rangers get more defenders in, and if Ben Godfrey gets fit again, which I'm led to believe he will be for Thursday night, then I think he could come in and replace Fernandez at the back.
Yeah, of course, and his position to lose, unfortunately, and that's the way football is. If he's thinking about transfers, so am I. There's been some news regarding potential transfers at Ibrox. What's the latest, Scotty?
Well, basically, looks like the next one in will be Kim Min-soo, Angus, 20-year-old Korean winger from Girona in Spain. We believe that I think he might have even had his medical today. I'm expecting him to be in Glasgow in the next 24, 48 hours for that deal to get agreed. Rangers have met his release clause, which we think is about €10 million, roughly about £8.5 million. A lot of money for a 20-year-old wide player who's effectively been playing in Spain's second division. But clearly highly rated. Rangers must look at him, obviously, with a lot of potential. Like everybody, I've watched all the clips of him, and of course, when you put the showreel together, it looks pretty good. I think he effectively is the replacement for Driek, the boy for PSV that he tried to sign, and obviously there was an issue with the medical, and Rangers pulled out of the deal. That collapsed. I think he was earmarked as being a kind of left winger.
Yeah,
I think Min-soo will be that guy. So I expect him to come in and obviously compete with the likes of Gassama and Finlay Curtis on the left-hand side. But I don't think he'll be the last winger to come in this window. I think Derek McInnes wants another one on the opposite side. I know they've obviously brought in Daisuke Yokota for about £3 million, and he's started the last few games. But No, I think it's pretty clear Derek McInnes wants another one for the right-hand side because Yokota's the only one he's got. I think if he could get another one in there to compete with him, that would be the ideal scenario. The one that keeps getting mentioned, obviously, is Cozier Dubry at Brighton.
Yes.
Rangers have had him on their radar for a long time now. I know for a fact that Derek McInnes is a big fan of his, and I think he's probably the guy that he would like. But from what we're hearing down south, Brighton know that there's a lot of suitors for this boy after the season he had last year at Bolton. And I think Tony Bloom and Brighton want a fee in the region of about £10 million, which again, for a young wide player, would be a lot of money for Rangers to shell out. So I think that one's ongoing. They'll have other options, but certainly another right winger should be on the cards for Rangers before this window shuts.
Yeah, an interesting one. I mean, when you think about that, when you hear these numbers, again, I said this when the Czerny news, we were talking about that last week. My goodness, Rangers fans must be pulling their hair out when they hear about the sums on one commenter saying about unproven players. They had one on their books and didn't pull the trigger on it. One of them, innit?
They could have probably got Czerny at that time, Angus, I think, for around kind of €5 million as well, we were led to believe. So to go from that to now, as I say, you're talking 8-9 million plus Czerny's wages, for a 29-year-old. It's a lot of money. We spoke about that last week, didn't we? That dilemma of paying the real big money to go and get your proven talent. Or having to go for slightly cheaper ones, but they're young and maybe a bit unproven at this level. So it's a dilemma. But as I say, this release clause for Min-Soo is pretty hefty as well. For £8.5 million, Rangers will expect him to come in, obviously be an immediate starter, and a difference maker for them in the final third. And if he does sign in the next kind of 24, 40 hours, as we expect. Obviously, we know he can't. He's not eligible for the European game on Thursday night. But what a baptism of fire it would be for him on Sunday at Pittodrie. Aberdeen v Rangers, 12 o'clock kickoff. What a game to make your debut for a young South Korean kid. So, you talk about mentality and dealing with atmospheres and pressure. He would have to deal with that if he comes in. But in Rangers' predicament at the moment, I think Derek McInnes would look to try and get him in and get him involved as soon as possible if he's fit, which we believe he is. He's obviously, I think he's played a couple of games for Girona. Then Rangers will look to try and get him in as soon as possible and get him involved.
Yeah, very much a welcome to Scottish football, son. If he gets Aberdeen on the road straight away, a big one. So out of nowhere, by the way, we are joined by our very own Mick Gannon. Mick, you hear us?
All right, chaps, how are we?
We were not expecting
I was just enjoying Scotty talking a lot of sense there, so I thought I'd bring some nonsense to the proceedings. Just out the Celtic press conference, they're just kind of finishing up here in Linz, headed tomorrow night. So yeah, it's all kind of it's all ticking over nicely for Celtic. Like, I've got to see this job off. Thought Martin O'Neill looked a bit nervous, to be honest with you, tonight. I thought he looked a wee bit kind of unsubdued, kind of quiet. Obviously still feeling the effects of his illness as well. He was obviously off sick the other week. But yeah, he was kind of fairly low key for Martin. It just sums up the kind of tie, doesn't it? It's kind of a really kind of, it should be done, but it's not done. You know what I mean? It's kind of in the balance still.
He was very keen, Mick, to play down the resulting performance after the first leg, wasn't he? I mean, I understood where he was coming from, because like you said earlier on in your the podcast with Ryan, it was a strange game. I mean, LASK were very good in the game, certain parts, and probably deserved at least one goal, maybe two. But I just wondered whether Martin O'Neill maybe kind of almost went too much the other way. But he's obviously, it's a huge game, huge finances at stake in terms of getting into Champions League. So he's just maybe been ultra cautious, and as you say, just want to go over the line.
That's his nature, but isn't it? He's kind of, he always goes that kind of cautious way. He always says, like, it's always a wee sting in the tail. So, it's a great result, but we could get hammered next week, or it was played really well, but we're a bit lucky. He's always kind of got that wee bit of caution in his attitude. I just thought tonight he just looked a little bit kind of not subdued, but a wee bit quieter than I've seen him. But he's a guy who, when he's slightly kind of anxious or something, you can tell. He wears it, you can see it on his shoulders. It's just the nature of the man. So I think he knows that, listen, it's Celtic in Europe. Celtic fans are haunted by some of these games. Like, I mean, there's the guys we're talking to in the square today, like, stick a mortgage on a goal in the first 10 minutes for LASK, just to spark the panic. So they're kind of almost like expecting this kind of to go a bit kind of bumpy. It's whether or not they can see it out over the 90 minutes. I thought LASK were decent last week, but I don't think they're world beaters. I think, listen, they've been scoring a lot of goals before the game last week, and it didn't happen for them last week. So they have got goals in them. They do start quickly. It's a dangerous. It's like they used to say, like 2-0 is a dangerous half-time scoreline. 3-0 should be all right, but the next goal is going to be crucial. If LASK score early on, it does completely change the complexion of the game. Their manager was sitting today. He says they're going to throw the kitchen sink at Celtic, which is a good phrase. I didn't know how to travel to Austria, that phrase, but it turns out it does. A good old sporting cliche about the kitchen sink getting lobbed. So they're going to go for it. So they know they're chasing a miracle. I get the feeling around here they don't expect to go through at 3-0 down. They're hoping for a miracle, but they don't expect it. Whereas I think Celtic are expecting to go really, really torturous and bumpy. That's what they're kind of expecting. Like fasten your seatbelts. It's going to get choppy here. So it'll be interesting. Instead of go out and get an early goal, the tie's over.
Yeah.
Sure.
I don't actually think it'll matter too much how Celtic play, because LASK have to go and have a go. That's the way they play. They'll come out all guns blazing. So Celtic won't have any choice in that. That's just going to happen. They're going to naturally defend, be deeper. It might suit them. It might be they can hit in the break. They've got pace. Duran's rapid. Even Turek, if he starts as quick, Yang's quick. I think they've got pace. They can hit in the break. It might suit them. And I wouldn't be surprised if, we mentioned it to Martin about the Stuttgart game in 2003, when they're 3-1 up in the first leg. They went to Germany, scored 2 goals in the first 20 minutes. They go 5-1 up, and then started panicking and started losing goals. So I wouldn't be surprised. To see something similar like that. But then again, last season, you've seen Celtic away from home in Europe. I thought some very good defensive displays. 5-0 away under Martin O'Neill first time, his first temporary spell, I think it was. Then Bologna away with 10 men. Stuttgart again away. I thought they defended really well. So they had some really good defensive performances away from home in Europe last year. They go to Ibrox with a patchwork squad, keep Rangers out in a 0-0 draw in the Cup, remember? When that team was probably no right to be progressing through that game. So they have got ability under fire to defend these guys. So I think they'll be ready for it. I don't think it might be as scary as some previous campaigns, but again, I'm fully expecting it to go haywire tomorrow night. I'm fully expecting the match report to be ripped up 15 times. Excuse me.
Big news on the defensive side. Trusty's in the squad. A few commenters asking about that. How big is that?
Just he didn't train this morning back in Glasgow. They trained back at Parkhead at Glasgow, then flew out. He didn't train, which got a few people a bit worried. But it turned out he had a bit of a stomach bug, and he's travelled with the team and expect him to be fine. So I think he's going to be okay. So kind of false alarm. It's a dodgy tummy, which I think there'll be a few of them tomorrow night. I think maybe as well. Given what I'm saying.
From the sounds of it, yeah. But we've spoke of Rangers and Celtic, but of course it's not just them. In Europe tonight, I spoke with Record Sports' Fraser Wilson, and he's on his way to the Austrian capital. And he was telling me all about how he thinks Hearts, Hibs and Motherwell are going to fare on their European bows. I'm joined here with our very own Fraser Wilson. You're on the road.
On the road, been in the air, been on the road, I've actually not been on the train yet, but that's still to come. Halfway through the journey, or maybe 2/3 of the way through the journey, sitting in Cologne Airport, heading to Vienna, hoping for a rip-roaring second leg with Hearts and Rapid tomorrow night. Not tomorrow night, sorry, Wednesday night. It's Eurozone. Completely lost the run of myself for a minute.
That's what they call jet lag in the business, I believe. So absolutely massive game for Hearts, considering they've come down both levels. Just kind of sum up how big this is for Wouter Vrag and his squad and all the Jambos heading over to Austria today.
It's massive, mate. It's absolutely massive. As you said, they've dropped out of the top 2 European competitions. This is now literally a last chance saloon for them. I feel sorry for Wouter Rankin. You know, he's parachuted in when Derek McInnes left with very little notice after last season, and he had less than a month to prepare not only the squad for the way he wanted to play, but a squad that had lost its captain and striker, its main midfielder, its main central defender to injury, and its long-serving goalkeeper, Craig Gordon. All 4 players who had worn the captain's armband at stages last season. He'd lost the spine of his team. He had 10 new players to introduce to this squad and this new style of playing. And to cut to the chase, the Sturm Graz Champions League qualifier just arrived far too early for them. I actually feel if that had been coming up in the next couple of weeks, they'd be ready for it now and they'd give themselves a right better chance of getting through that. But look, it's gone. That went. They were absolutely hammered 6-0 across the 2 legs and then dropped into Europa League, where it only got even harder. I mean, the draws, if that wasn't tough enough for Rankin, the draws have been so unfair to them. They then dropped into Europa League and drew Benfica. And let's be honest, Benfica are not a Europa League quality team. They're definitely not a Europa League qualifying type club. They're far bigger than that. So again, absolutely hammered 6-1 in Portugal. The tie was dead after the first leg, but they fought back. They fought back in the second leg at Tynecastle and showed there is a growing belief in the squad and in the fan base. They drew 1-1 at Tynecastle in the second leg, and that's the point here. Hearts have been getting better week on week with Rankin. Very unlucky not to win the first leg of this tie against Rapid Vienna in Edinburgh last week. They fought back for 1-0 down at half time to deservedly take a 2-1 lead with 2 fantastic goals. An absolute worldie for James Wilson for 30 yards. Tynecastle was absolutely rocking. That took the roof off the place. It was brilliant. If they had just clung on to that lead, I'd have really fancied them in Vienna on Wednesday night. As it was, Vienna equalised with 11 minutes left, so the tie is sort of in the balance at 2-2. You just think maybe with home advantage it slightly favours Austrians. But look, as I say, Hearts are showing signs of improvement every single week. I really do fancy them to score on Wednesday night in the Alliance Stadion. It's whether they can keep the back door shut. That's been a big problem coming up against.
I've got the number here. It's 19 goals in 7 games. 19 goals in 7 games.
Yeah. Well, look, they lost 6 across 2 ties to Sturm Graz. They then lost 6 in 1 tie over in Portugal. I have since lost another 3 in Europe in the home leg against Benfica and the home tie against Rapid Vienna. They're coming up against class teams. It's a front foot style of football that Rankin's brought in here, which is it's a sea change for last season under Derek McInnes. It's almost the complete opposite of what we're used to under Derek McInnes in terms of McInnes had them so set up to defend under the cosh. They were great at defending their box, they were great at defending 1-goal leads. Weren't overly expansive, but this style under Rankin's complete opposite. You know, they flood bodies forward. They call it chaos ball. He just loves to cause chaos in the opposition final third, but it leaves them wide open to the counter attack, and that's the hardest bit that they've not really nailed yet, is that transition, and they keep getting picked off in the counter. So if they can manage to sort that in Vienna on Wednesday night, they've got a real chance. I think this one maybe sits about 60-40 in Rapid Vienna's battle edge in favour of Rapid Vienna. But look, that's a good chance for Hearts, and I really do feel they deserve a wee break here. I would love to see them go through.
Who are the key men tonight? I mean, Fraser Wilson? James Wilson's strike was absolutely stunning. Great to see him back in Scottish football. Does he have the kind of potential to kind of fill that Shankland-shaped void, or what we're looking at here with Hearts?
I'd love to think so. He's one of their own. He's a young Scottish player. He's had 2 Scotland caps now. 19-year-old still. He went down for that spell at Tottenham, which really took everyone by surprise in January, the wee loan spell. But rather than stay in Edinburgh and be part of that championship pushing team, but look, he was kind of out he was out of the picture under Derek McInnes a bit, just getting 2 or 3 minutes here or there off the bench. So he said he wanted to go down, train with seasoned professionals at Tottenham, which he did. Played a lot under 21 minutes. And he's come back a better player. And I tell you what, it's a funny wee story here actually. I mean, we've all seen that wonder goal against Rapid on Thursday night, but he opened his account when he came off the bench 4 days earlier in the cup tie against Inverness with a typical header for half a yard. and we spoke to him after that game against Inverness, and he joked, look, I never scored good goals here. It's almost as if he's teeing himself up for Thursday night, because 4 days later, boom, there we all saw it, 30 yards, absolutely lifted the roof off of Tynecastle. So I fully expect he'll start on the bench again on Thursday night, but the crucial thing here is he's producing an impact every time he comes off the bench. He's got legs, energy, and he's really got an eye for goal. That's him scored 10 top team goals now for Hearts, and he's only 19 years old. So, yeah, real hope there. And for the good of the Scottish game, not just Hearts, let's hope he continues to improve.
Yeah, it's not an easy place to go, especially a European away day when everything is on the line like that. Do you think they can go and get the result tonight on Wednesday? Keep saying tonight.
We keep making the same mistake, me and you, don't we? As I said, look, it's going to be tough. I think if they can get their noses in front, it gives them a chance, and I don't put that past them. The key is I can't see them keeping a clean sheet. Just this way they're playing this expansive football. They haven't kept the back door shut. Apart once against Dundee United, but that's once in 7 games. They're just looking really vulnerable when they get picked off and they lose the ball in the opposition half. So look, if maybe this is the time for it all to come together. It's going to be an unbelievable atmosphere. Jim Goodwin was actually talking about this tie that's coming up because he took Dundee United to Rapid Vienna last season and were unlucky to lose in penalty kicks. So he said the atmosphere is going to be fantastic. You wouldn't really expect anything else at this sort of occasion. It's all on the line now. It's do or die. We've got one shot at it. So if they can nail it at both ends of the park, they've got a right good chance.
Yeah, of course. And let's just hope for the sake of the coefficient that Hearts can pull it off. Doesn't matter who you support, maybe unless you're a Hibs fan. But
and what other walk of life do we use the term coefficient? You know, European football, it comes round every August, and that's about it.
Football has injected the word coefficient into the pubs, and I love it. It's a random, eloquent word for us. But looking at it, another trip. There might be folk in your flight jumping off just now. Looking at the other teams in Europe, obviously Motherwell go to Freiburg away. It's a tough one for them. 3-1 down with a red card in the first leg. Tough one for the Steelmen.
They got off the fly in the first leg last week. 1-0 up after 2 minutes. Was it Tawanda Masmanisi or Regan Charles Cook? What a start. And I mean, I was sitting watching the scores come through as I was sitting at Tynecastle for the Rapid Vienna game. I thought, here we go again, because Albert Johansson's made such a flying start to life at Motherwell. It's almost been seamless. It was one of them, nobody really, we thought nobody would really want to step into the shoes of Jens LASK and the job he did there last season, but you know, hats off to Albert Johansson. He's kept that, that front foot, expansive style of football going seamlessly, and they've got off to a great start domestically and really done well in Europe again. It looked like they were going to pull off the result of their season against Freiburg there, but this is a big Bundesliga outfit. You know, they were runners-up in the Europa League last season, so this is a serious outfit. A 2-goal deficit going over to Germany, you've got to say it's just going to be too much amount to climb for Motherwell, but hopefully they can give another good account of themselves and prove me wrong maybe.
Yeah, I bet a lot of people in Motherwell will be hoping for that. I mean, it would be absolutely massive if they managed to pull that off. Another team in Europe and across the city, but back in Scotland, Hibs managed to bring back a 0-0 draw after travelling to Belgium with Ghent. David Gray's got a chance here to pull the European football back.
Yeah, pressure on them a wee bit now. They started horrifically, losing away in Kosovo in the first leg of the first qualifier, but they pulled that one back, and then we obviously went 4-1. I think David Gray is on record this week as saying they were putting everything into their pre-season geared towards this European campaign. I followed them last season, and at this very stage they went to Legia Warsaw and went within a minute of qualifying for the league phase. It was unbelievably painful for them. Warsaw equalised in the 94th minute, I think it was, over in Warsaw, and then eventually they took the tie in extra time, and it was heartbreaking for Hibs. They've never made it into the main stage, the group stage, league phase, whatever you want to call it, of any European competition, so they're on the brink of making history here. And over in Genk last week, they got a really impressive 0-0 draw. They dug in, believe they could have won it. Well, they missed a penalty through Owen Eldon, so they could have been in an even better position. But if I'm saying that the Hearts Rapid Vienna tie is edging towards being in Vienna's favour with home, with them having the home tie, then you've got to think, hopefully now that means Hibs are edging this one. A big...
Yeah, and there was Fraser Wilson there, chatting along to Fraser there. I won't keep you longer. He thinks that both Edinburgh sides are going to pull a result away from this, but he thinks that the hurdle is too big for Motherwell. Scott, just finally, before we wrap this up, 3 teams in Europe, what are your predictions for these 3? Obviously, a lot on the line.
Aye, for those 3, obviously, I think the obvious one is Motherwell going out. Angus, Freiburg obviously be too strong for them, I would think, in Germany. Although I suppose this Motherwell team, you just never know with them. They look capable of kind of producing kind of moments in games, as they did obviously with the opener on the first leg. But I think they've got a mountain to climb in Germany, so I'd expect them to go out. The Edinburgh ones are interesting. My gut feeling is I think Hibs can go through. I think it was a brilliant result, getting a 0-0 in Genk. As Fraser says, they could have even won it. I think just with what's on the line, that kind of prospect of making history and getting into the group stage for the first time, I've just got a feeling Hibs are going to do it. I've got a feeling it could be a big night at Easter Road for them. But Hearts, my gut again is I think Hearts will go out. I think it'll be. I think it's a tough game going to Vienna. Fraser touched on it there. My feeling with Hearts, I just think they're not strong enough at the back. Angus, I don't think they're strong enough defensively to go to Vienna and keep a clean sheet. I know there'll be a threat going forward because of the way Wouter Rankin wants to play, but defensively they've not been good enough this season. And I think going over there, Rapid will fancy their chances. They'll put them under a lot of pressure. I could probably see Hearts scoring because of the attacking threat they've got, but as I say, my instinct's telling me they'll probably go out, which would be a real shame, obviously. But I think the Old Firm and Hibs could go through with Hearts and Motherwell just coming up short.
Yeah, Fraser was agreeing with you. That he thinks that Hearts will score, but they will also concede. He had them winning. You had them the other way around. But yeah, all to play for in Europe, and we'll bring you the latest on Record Sport. But Scotty, I'm going to let you get back to your evening, my man. Enjoy the last of the summer. But I thank you very much for joining us, mate.
No worries, mate. Cheers, Angus.
Thank you very much to everyone. Thank you our commentators, all of our amazing staff that have jumped on and done the show with us today, and of course to our sponsors, NordVPN. But yeah, we'll be back tomorrow. We'll be previewing Celtic's match with LASK. Keep your comments coming in. We want to hear your predictions. We want to hear your thoughts on everything in Scottish football, and we'll be here. So we'll see you later and have a lovely evening, guys. Cheers.